Alright, what's up guys? New deck profile today. We are doing Lair of Darkness. We have new support from Power of the Elements. We have a new card, a new Super Poly target, and a variety of other things from... We have a new card from the Legendary Duelist set too that I'm giving a try, but let's get started with the deck profile. We play 3 copies of Arima. This card's extremely important. This searches Lair of Darkness. This is a field spell deck. You need Lair of Darkness as soon as possible. You have to play as many copies as possible of Lair of Darkness because without the Lair of Darkness, it's tough to play the deck. Fortunately, it is pretty easy to get to it, unlike other field spell decks, but regardless, we gotta get as many as possible. Also, it has another effect where you can tribute a dark monster and draw a card. If you tribute another dark monster other than this card, you can search a dark monster, I believe, yeah, 2,000 or more defense. I have a monster to search. I didn't have the stats memorized, but it's, yeah, monster with 2,000 or more defense. So you can activate, tribute your opponent's monster, and then search a 2,000 attack monster, defense monster. We're playing 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. This card is usually the one we search off of Arima. It's very, very, very strong. It basically allows you to reveal itself, and then all set cards on the field are protected. They cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, if a set card is activated, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can set any spell and trap card in the game into your back row. It gets banished during the end of the next turn. So the card is just insane. It protects your back row, and then the following turn you activate it, summon it after you activate a trap card, and then set like... You can set any pot you want into your back row. It's kind of insane. It's a very strong card. It can set a pot, a super poly. It can set a terraforming, a field spell. It literally sets whatever you want. You can. What's one thing that's cool that you can do with this is, like, let's say you don't want to banish the card. You can just set a trap trick. You can just set a trap trick next turn. Activate trap trick and set something else, and then the card won't get banished. So you can even dodge around the restrictions of the card. But normally you'll just use the card anyway. Next, we play 1 copy of Loris, Lady of Lament. This is a new card, just came out, just came out 2 days ago. This card is another one that's, it's kind of like a grind game card. What it basically does is lets you target 3 or 6 of your banished or traps that are, normal traps that are either banished or in the graveyard. And then you can put them to the bottom of the deck. If you did 3, you can draw 1 card. If you did 6, you can draw 2 cards. It's almost like a pot of prosperity in terms of the effect in a certain way, and you don't get to like look at the top of your deck, but you get to draw. So it's cool recursion, and it actually does banish cards, which is nice because if you actually resolve 1 copy of Trap Trick, you fill the requirements to draw at least 1 card. Because you activate Trap Trick, it's 1 card. You banish 1, and then you set 1 in your back row. Once you activate that card, you now have 1 banished, and you have 1 banished card and 2 in your graveyard. You literally filled the entire requirement for this card with 1 copy of Trap Trick. So pretty good combination there. And then it has another effect with one of your monsters. Observe if a monster is tributed, or or a normal trap is sent to the graveyard, you can set a normal trap back to the field, which again is just like free recursion. And they're not even like banished when they leave the field. Even if they were banished when they leave the field, this card gets the shuffle back banish card. So it's actually a pretty cool card there. So we definitely play 1 copy of that. Next, we play 1 copy of Alice, Lady of Lament. This is another good card. This one came out, I think, in the previous set. What it basically does is when you normal summon it, you can target a Lady of Lament card in your graveyard and special summon it. And then it also has an additional effect where you can actually search a fiend monster when this card is tributed. So you can tribute it for like Full Force Virus, and then you can... you contribute it for Full Force Virus, and then you get to add a Fiend monster, which is pretty cool. Next, we play Lilith, Lady of Lament, which is usually you're going to add the Lilith off of this. Lilith is probably the best Lady of Lament monster. It basically lets you tribute a monster on the field, and then you can reveal 3 trap cards to your opponent. Your opponent picks one at random and puts it in your back row. Your opponent doesn't know which card exactly that you put, but I'm playing a cool combination with Lilith, which is... I play 1 trap trick, and then I play 2 copies of traps that I like. Like, for example, I play 2 eradicators and 2 trap tricks. So all you have to do is just select eradicator, 2 eradicators and a trap trick, and you're always guaranteed to see exactly what you want to see. So it's a pretty cool situation there. Next, we play 2 tour guides. I cut the tour guide to 2. It's not like it's a bad card. It's just not always super duper important. Like, it's a cool like +1 because you get to summon one from the deck, but the effects are negated, so that can be a little bit annoying sometimes. Now the cool thing is, even if you summon Lilith off of Tour Guide, the tribute is cost, so you can still activate tribute your opponent's monster. You won't get the set the trap cards, but you still get to tribute your opponent's monsters, and it is a quick effect. So every turn you can just like recursion, just keep tributing your opponent's monster. One copy of Sengen. This card's really good. Just searches anything when it leaves the field. So another kind of good card. You just usually can use, if you use Ties of the Brethren, you summon out Sengen, and then you can use Lilith to tribute Sengen. Set a card into your background, and then search a card, any card you want, any Sengen target. Next we play another new card, Kaiser Glider Golden Burst. This is another card that I'm trying out. I'm playing it at 1 just because this is a card you never want to see at more than 1. But this card is really cool because it actually has a quick effect to tribute one monster and then special summon this card from your hand. So during your opponent's turn, at any point, you can just quick effect tribute their monster and summon this thing out onto the field. It's kind of a crazy quick effect. You get the summon, then you lose a monster. Like, there's no drawback to whatsoever, except for just when you see it at an unoptimal time, I suppose. And then it has another effect where if this card is normal special summoned, you can target one monster your opponent controls. That monster's attack becomes the monster's current attack until the end phase. Yep. So that's it. This card copies your opponent's attack. I didn't even know about that second part. I usually just tribute something and that's it. Now for the spells, we play 3 copies of Lair of Darkness. It is obviously the heart and soul of the deck. You need to play 3. If you play less than 3, you're a fool. So max it out. It lets you tribute your opponent's monsters and it generates tokens. Play 1 copy of Terraforming to search it. Super important. Like I said, you got to get to it as soon as possible. Even if you open with multiple, sometimes it's not the end of the world because your opponent will try to pop it and you'll activate it. We play 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren. All of our Fiend monsters are level 3, so you can get 3 Fiend monsters onto the board and you can start going off. I did a previous video where I showed a combo at the end, and if you want to go watch that, you can. But it basically can end on a multiple interruption board just by having like any level 3 in Ties of the Brethren. It's my previous deck profile for Lair of Darkness. Next we play 3 copies of Super Poly. This is one of the best cards in the meta right now. There's so many amazing targets available for Super Poly. I did a video on it if you're trying to see whatever amazing targets there are, but you can basically beat any modern meta deck with Super Poly just because the targets just continue to become better and better and better and more generic. So Super Poly is very, very good right now. That's why you max out on 3. It allows us to go second and not really have an issue. Next we play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity to help us dig for combo pieces that we need. This deck really only needs you really only need 2 cards to really go off, which is just a level 3 monster and the field spell, and then you're basically off to the races and you kind of create like a control meta. Next for the trap cards, we play 3 copies of Skill Drain, and this is good because almost all of our tribute effects activate in the graveyard, so it doesn't really matter. It hurts our opponent much more to get Skill Drain than it hurts us, so Skill Drain is actually pretty good. The only thing Skill Drain hurts is the Loris card, which is the new card. Yeah, it hurts Loris, but it's not the end of the world, and it hurts Alice, but Alice's graveyard effect is fine, and Loris is the only card that's really hurt by this. Every other card is unhurt by Skill Drain, so it literally doesn't matter. We play 1 copy of Macrocosmos. Again, this is one of those things, it just literally does not matter. It doesn't matter if our opponents get banished, cards get banished. I like to, in Game 2, side in Dimensional Shifter, because again, it literally does not matter if our cards get banished. The only thing that Macrocosmos hurts is Sangan. We can't resolve Sangan, but everything else is fine. Loris can actually put banished trap cards back to the bottom of the deck, so it doesn't even matter if they're banished or not. That's why it's kind of irrelevant, and this hurts virtually every single meta deck in the game, so except for Flunderies, so it's a very, very good card. 1 copy of Metaverse, because again, we got to get to that field spell. And for the trap cards, we play 2 copies of Trap Trick, and then all of the other trap cards from here on in, we're playing at 2, because, like I said before, when you use a Lilith Lady of Lament, you just select, you basically just select 1 Trap Trick, and then whatever 2 trap cards you want, you're guaranteed to get the trap card that you want, plus you get a little more versatility because you can actually change your options during your opponent's turn. You can just reveal Trap Trick and Eradicator, and then 2 Eradicators, and let's say your opponent tributes, let's say your opponent gets rid of your 2500 attack monster, or let's say your opponent doesn't summon a 2500 attack monster, you can just activate Trap Trick and then just get something else and go a different combo line. So that's pretty cool. But here we go. We play 2 copies of Full Force Virus. This works very well with the Alice Lady of Lament because it's 2000 and it'll allow us to search, so it kind of like makes up for anything we're giving up. Play 2 copies of Eradicator. It's very good against all of the fusion decks that are running around the metagame right now. You just call spells and a lot of their grind game is gone. And then this is a new one I'm trying. It's called 0 Day Blaster. So this card lets you tribute a dark link monster. Just don't forget, every single monster on the board becomes dark. So even if we summon a non-dark link monster, our opponent summons a non-dark link monster, it becomes a dark link monster. But you can tribute a dark link monster, and then you can target cards equal to the link rating of that monster and destroy them. So if we summon a Link 4 and we tribute it, we get to pop 4 cards. If our opponent summons a Link 4, we get to tribute it and pop 4 cards. And we are obviously playing Link monsters in there. So even, like, you don't have to summon a huge monster for this to be helpful, like, to be a very good card. You can just summon, like, a Unicorn, and this is a very good card. You can summon an Axis Kotok, it's an extremely good card. But, like, you don't have to summon all that. You can summon a Beat Cop, and this pops 2 cards. Like, it's still a pretty strong card. And you don't put a lot of resources into all of that because most of the time you're making all of the Link monsters with random tokens that are, like, scraped together. So this card is actually really, really good for the deck to try out. So that is everything in our main deck. Let's move on to the extra deck. For the extra deck, we're playing a ton of Super Poly targets. First, we're playing First of the Dragons. This card is very, very good against certain matchups. For decks that don't play a main deck monster destruction or like main deck monster negation, this card's actually really strong. What it basically does is it requires 2 normal monsters to summon. You got to remember the field spell is summoning normal monsters every single end phase. So you can actually tribute like 2 monsters during your opponent's turn. So let them summon 2 tokens. Next turn, Super Poly and summon this, and you just wiped out all of their tokens, and you got a free monster. On top of that, it basically can't be destroyed by battle by an effect monster, and it's unaffected by effect monsters. So if your opponent doesn't have like a main deck like Raigeki or Forbidden Dropless or something like that in their main deck, they basically just automatically lose. It's unaffected by most of the other cards, so it's actually pretty strong against certain decks. But in general, it helps you like wipe out tokens. And it's pretty good because a lot of decks actually use tokens. So if your opponent summons like a Rite of Aramasir token and you have like a token, you can just fuse them both and get rid of that entire line and they can't respond. 1 Predaplant, 3-headed dragon. Basically, this is 3 dark monsters on the field. Everything is dark on the field. You literally can wipe a board. If you activate the field spell and your opponent allows you to resolve it, you just chain Super Poly, you literally wipe everything out. Mud Dragon, some people are cutting this because the new monster came out. This is still really good. It's 2 monsters with the same attribute, different type. Lair of Darkness makes everything dark, so everything is the same attribute. They're all dark, and they'll have different types. This is still very good. So don't cut this just because the new card came out. Next, we've got Garura, Wing of Resonant Life. This is the new card, TCG exclusive, extremely good. Basically, it's 2 monsters with the same type and attribute. This is actually what Super Poly was missing. It was a lot of decks. Before, the only thing that Super Poly was good against were dark decks and cards that Mud Dragon could hit, and then Cyber decks. Other than that, like a lot of decks would actually dodge Super Poly pretty easily, but this card is so good because almost all decks, like for example, Splight ends on Totally Awesome and a Dupe Frog on the field. That means that Splites actually do have a monster at the same type and attribute. They're water and they're aqua. So this can actually just completely wreck Splites. And then on top of that, this card has a really good effect where if it leaves the field, it can basically draw you a card, which is really good because the discard cost for Super Poly is to discard a card, but if you like link this away, you just get the discard card. Whatever you discarded, you get back for free, which is pretty awesome. Next, we play Predaplant Drekaspelia. This card basically is another Super Poly target, a fusion monster and a dark monster. I think there are more fusion monsters in the metagame right now than there have been in years. Probably since like Thunder Dragon format. There are so many fusion decks running around. You have Albaz and all of the different variants of the Fallen of Albaz Despia stuff. You have Tier Elements running around, and then you've got like Shaddoll Dogmatic and Invoke still running around. Like you've got so many different fusion decks like in the game right now. It's kind of crazy. This card's really strong against all of them, and it's certainly nice because Tier Elements is like a tier 1 deck, so you're always like guaranteed to summon this at least once again. And the funny thing is, this is actually on the tier element end board, and this actually breaks their board, which is like really helpful. Earth Golem Agnister, this is for Cyber's decks. Once in a while you'll play Cyber's decks and it's nice to just go second and just hit them with something. Starving Venom, this is probably the best Super Poly target in the deck because it's just 2 dark monsters outside of tokens, so it's pretty good. Then we've got Starving Venom, Predaplant Fusion Dragon. Basically this thing is 3600 attack. It requires a dark fusion monster and another fusion monster. Again, there's so many fusion monsters in the deck, or in the game right now. This card is actually really, really strong against them. And again, we're going to make everything dark regardless, so it doesn't even matter. It's just very good, and it basically, when this thing dies, it lets you bring back any dark monster in your graveyard back to the field. So just stupidly good recursion. And again, even under skill drain, that effect is still really, really strong because, yeah, it's still really, really strong under skill drain because it activates in the graveyard, so you can play around it. Next, we've got Gravity Controller. This card is a really good combo with the Garuga, because you can summon Garuga off of Super Poly, and then you can immediately just link it away, make Gravity Controller, and then just draw a card off of the Garuga's effect, and you make back the card that you used for Super Poly. That you discarded for Super Poly. So this thing is actually kind of good. And then it can't be destroyed in battle with a monster in the main monster zone. And if it battles a monster in the extra monster zone, you shuffle that monster back. So that, again, can be pretty helpful. Like if your opponent has like a Appaloosa, you can bait negates. It's very helpful. Next, we've got one Nightmare Unicorn. Important, obviously, in all decks. And again, Nightmare Unicorn is additionally good because we're playing that trap card, the 0-Day Blaster. And then you contribute this and pop 3 cards. Playing 1 copy of Access Code because he's just a GOAT. He helps you finish games. 1 copy of Dark, probably one of the better cards. Again, very dark meta, very fusion-based meta. There are a lot of monsters you can take out of your opponent's graveyard. They're really good. You can take Phoenix Enforcer if they've got it. You can take Winda if they've got it. You can take the tier element cards if they've got them. Like, you can take a lot of the best monsters in the game are dark. So having access to Dark the Dark Charmer, and it's like, this card is so easy to summon. You could just use the excess tokens to make Dark the Dark Charmer and just take something out of your opponent's graveyard and then keep them. Like, you could take something out of your opponent's graveyard and then just keep them under their own window because it doesn't negate the monsters. It literally just takes them. And that effect you can use every single turn. Take something every turn and just keep them under their own window. Next, you've got IP Masquerena, which is obviously just very, very good. Probably the best Link 2 ever printed. That's not Christian Heckler Fibrax, but there's a lot of good Link 2s. 1 copy of Beak Cop. This is one of the more important cards for the Lair of Darkness. It might as well be in the archetype, honestly. And then 1 copy of Salmangre All Mirage in case you draw Sangan and you just want to normal summon Link away, and then yeah, you just normal summon Link away. Also has a tribute and protect effect, so it actually can trigger your field spell to summon a token, and of course the Beat Cop can protect your field spell by tributing a monster. So you can tribute your opponent's monster and then put a counter on your field spell and protect your field spell from destruction. But that is everything for today. If you enjoyed this deck profile, obviously leave a like, leave a comment, all that great stuff. If you have any suggestions or if you have any new cards that you think are very, very good in the deck, mention it down in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.